Okay, the radiator shroud fits right on the radiator. It's held in place with 4 6mm bolts. The original bolts from Honda have a Phillips head screw cut into them, and then of course the hex head on them. You notice that they are extremely short. Do not substitute any other bolts. If you substitute other bolts for it and they're too long, they'll poke in here and they'll tear the radiator, and now you've got a coolant leak. So do not substitute other bolts for the ones that belong in that location. Okay, there are 2 saddles that go with the frame of the generator. This is what the radiator slides down into. Then there are 2 rubber grommets. Steel inserts go into the radiator housing. Like such. If you're doing a cooling fan replacement, these will actually stay in place nicely. The saddles at the bottom, unfortunately, that's not the case, where they have a tendency to walk off anytime you're doing a cooling fan replacement. Make sure that these haven't moved out of place and laying back when you go to slide the radiator back into place. The radiator itself is mounted to these 2 brackets. As I mentioned during the installation of the starter motor wiring harness needs to be held over towards the engine block, otherwise it'll come real close to this bracket. I don't know if you can get that with the camera or not. It's kind of dark, but you can see how close that comes. That's also why whenever I was putting the exhaust heat shield in place, I pushed it towards the flywheel side, because the radiator comes down through here and you really don't want this heat shield rubbing against the radiator tank. This stand is also held on by 2 studs on the frame and just 2 nuts. This wiring harness here is what goes to the coolant temperature sensor in the radiator. Slide the radiator down into place, make sure it seats into those saddles. I try to put this bolt in first because it gives me more maneuverability to get the bolt in, because it's not real easy, especially if the generator is installed in a truck. If you do happen to drop that screw, it is steel, so you can pick it up with a magnet. Incidentally, this spring, the surge spring on the governor arm, is also steel. If you drop it, you can also pick it up with a magnet. However, if you drop them, they usually end up in this little tray, and you can take an awl or something and drag it to this end to get at it. The wiring harness for the coolant temperature sensor in the radiator is also held in place by one of these wire clips. They just split, go around the wire, and then push into the hole. Radiator hose clamps are a simple Corbin clamp. Kind of wonder if that's an important call.